Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge and welcome to another romance recommendation video. Today I am bringing you Tender-Hearted Heroes. This was recommended by Megan T, requested this video, so this video is for you, Megan. This is also something that I find is generally called cinnamon roll heroes, but today we're going with tender-hearted because that's what Megan suggested and that's what we're going with today. So I have 10 recommendations for this with you, and the first one I want to recommend is a recent release. In fact, the day I'm filming it, this just came out, by the way, and that is Under the Radar by Melanie Harlow. This is book 4 in her Reynolds Restoration series. I do recommend that you read this series in order just because I feel like you will have a better experience if you did, because it really shows why Chase, the hero of this book, is so tender-hearted and why it is such a miracle that he is, because he actually starts out as a very troubled teenager and young man, and he's under the influence of his older brother, who is a rabble-rouser and an asshole basically. And in an earlier book in this series, Chase and his brother, mostly his brother, but Chase is there as well, are involved in a scenario that put the heroine of the first book in danger. And so Chase and his brother both end up in prison. Chase ends up getting out earlier, not only for good behavior, but also because he wasn't as involved in it as his brother was. And then Chase goes about getting amends, and he genuinely means it. He sees that his brother is an asshole and that the grudges that his family had are not ones that he needs to have, and he actually becomes a part of the Reynolds Restoration family, okay? So that's kind of the background of where we're at. Then in this romance, we have Chase, who is now going to be living on his own because one of his buddies from the previous, is shacked up with someone else, and one of the people who inquires about being his roommate is Officer Hannah, who he also calls Officer Cinnamon in his head. And so this is a cool pairing. It's an ex-con and a law enforcement officer, and Hannah and him have had kind of this light flirtation before anyway, and she sees him as someone who is reformed, and so there's never that. This isn't an enemies to lovers scenario. It's actually a friends to lovers, and they're very excited both to be living together, and their sexual tension of them being roommates really grows from there. And Chase is just such a sweet man, and I love to see that he's getting his second chance, and though not everyone in the town wants to give him a second chance, he does his very best to earn it, and watching him get his chance with Hannah is really cute to see. All right, now we're gonna dive in because I have a whole stack of these boys right here. So I have Gloam from Lily Main. So this is book 4 in her Monstrous series. So this is, again, a series I do recommend you start from the beginning, but I wanted to recommend one of the books that I don't talk about as much, right? I talk a lot about the first 2 books in this series. Those are the ones that just come up the most when I'm recommending stuff. But Gloam is this type of monster that he's this huge giant, right? He's this huge grayish purple skinned giant. And when we meet him, he actually has a box locked around his head. He is being kept captive by this horrible woman. He has a chain hooked into his spine so that he can't run away and can't leave. And he's being used as kind of a bodyguard and protector by this evil woman called the Collector. I think that's her name. Yeah, Collector Mary. And one of our lovely people, it is Rig. I'm sorry. It is Rig. He just feels so bad for this big beastie who's being treated this way because he does seem so gentle. And so Rig decides to follow after Gloam when he has to leave and try to find a way to free him. Now, Gloam doesn't think there's any way to free him, and in fact, he doesn't tell him how, but he says it's very dangerous for him to be near him if Collector Mary were to try to do something about it. So yeah, but we have this big beastie who's absolutely tenderhearted and who loves his human, and once these two start to be together, it is so, so beautiful. And Lily Mayne writes these she writes these most romantic romances between these sweet boys and monsters in the middle of an apocalypse, and it just makes me swoon. They're just so adorable. I love it so much. So I highly recommend. And I think that if you read this series by her, you'll find that it is full of cinnamon rolls. But like I said, I wanted to highlight one that I don't talk about as much, because Gloam doesn't get brought up as much as some of the flashier monsters, right? Then we have a monster with a heart of gold as well, a Grim and Barrett. Henry is absolutely a tender-hearted hero, absolutely. His place of peace is a butterfly garden. He is so in love with Clara, and he is afraid to reach out and take her because he feels very filled with darkness. He's a Grim. He is even a particular type of Grim that is very dangerous. But Clara has waited. She is done biding her time, and she is ready to go after her man. She is ready to go after him. And as soon as she pushes open that door, she brings those cupcakes over to him to invite him to book club. They go for it. And we see Henry just absolutely open up to her, and we see, you know, how much he really cares, and just how much of a burden his power has been to him in these years. And it's just very beautiful to get to see these two come together. But I think Henry has an absolutely tender heart. He reads historical romances. He joins her book club. He's so sweet. He had to be a part of my tender-hearted heroes. Absolutely. All right. Then I wanted to throw a mafia romance in here, right? Because I wanted to have some all across the board. Now, it's a bit difficult in mafia romance to find a cinnamon roll or a tender-hearted hero. And I did think about using one of J.T. Geisinger's, because I think some of them have it inside of them. But I decided to go with one of Sophie Lark's instead. And so I actually went with The Heir. So the first book in Kingmakers, because I do think of a lot of her men who are mafia. Now, of course, I think Raylan has a tender heart as well. He's my man, all right? Raylan's my man for sure. But I do think that Leo has a tender heart, and he loves his friend, Anna. He wants there to be more with her, but he fucks up, right? He fucks it up a few times. It's not to say he still can't be brutal, that he still won't fight where he needs to. He is an heir to a mafia family. But as I said, he does have a tender heart inside. And I really think that we see that in some of the precious moments that he has with Anna. And yeah, I definitely think that of the two of them, I think both of them do have tender hearts. You know, she is the heart of a dancer and everything. But, you know, yeah, that's where we're going. That's what I'm saying. We're sticking with it. I think that he has a tender heart, and he really is a cinnamon roll underneath a lot of it. He just doesn't get to put that on display when he's at the mafia school. Like, he needs to hide it, and he needs to be fierce. But I think that Leo has that soft side in there, and I appreciate that about him. All right, now I have a book that I definitely haven't mentioned in a while, but it absolutely, when I looked at it, has a tender-hearted hero for sure. And this is Wake My Heart by Lydia Michaels. And this is the first book in her Jasper Falls series, but it's actually a spin-off from the McCullough Mountain series, and you do see a lot of crossover because Ryan Clooney, the hero in this one, he is a cousin to the McCulloughs. So we definitely see that crew in there. This isn't like a second generation, like he's still the same age as a lot of those. So in this one, Ryan Clooney, he moves out of the home finally, and he moves to this small house on the outside of town, and he meets Maggie, who is his next door neighbor, and she is a young widow. And it's actually very tragic. She lost her husband just a few years ago, and she's in a deep depression about it. She thought he was her, you know, forever, and he died in such a just tragic way, and she is absolutely broken. And this is a beautiful story of grief and of moving on. And Ryan just wants to be there for her and allow her to heal, but he also doesn't want her to be stuck in the past. And so there's just a lot of mixed emotions here. And this book, I listened to the audio for this one, and I mean, it had me weeping at many times, it did, but it also was so beautiful. And how patient and reliable and strong Ryan was for Maggie was just so beautiful. So yes, I highly recommend. And I love what it says on the back here. It says, determined to reach Maggie's heart, Ryan has an awakening of his own and learns what love is all about. So I just love that. It's so sweet. So if you're looking for one that, you know, maybe for a little bit more of a weepier day, but still has that happily ever after to pull you through, I recommend. All right, then I had to bring out one of my boys. You know, I was looking at my bookshelf and I was like, what's one of my boys that might be a little unconventional to recommend for a tender-hearted hero? And I might surprise some of you with this. And this might not be a book, you know, that y'all are just going to be able to pick up just for this one hero. But I don't care. It's my list, and I'm putting him in here. I'm putting Roger Wakefield Mackenzie up for a tender-hearted hero, okay? We first get introduced to him in Dragonfly and Amber when Claire and Brianna have come to Scotland to honor the death of his adopted father. And he gets introduced to this interesting pair of ladies, and his life is never the same again. And though Roger may be more tender-hearted and soft than, say, Jamie Fraser, he still has a core of steel when he needs to. And it is a great joy in my reading life to have watched and still continue to watch the arc that is Roger Wakefield Mackenzie. And his love for Brianna, well, you know what? It is just as strong as some of Claire and Jamie's scenarios because he loves her through time as well. He is this humble, bit of a bumbling professor, but when he meets Brianna, this younger, sparkling woman, he falls head over heels for her. And though they definitely have some troubles in the beginning, they are no less dedicated to each other than any other couple in the series. So I'm putting Roger up as a tender-hearted hero because he's beautiful. He is an artist in some sense. He's a singer. He is a man of God. And he is just, it's beautiful. They have a beautiful relationship. So I wanted to put him in there. Another unconventional one to put in here is one of my favorite fan fictions of all time. Safe Word is Devil's Snare by Shea Alani. And this one has Neville Longbottom and Hermione Granger as the couple in this. And this is a marriage law where they're supposed to get married and try and make babies. And Neville has a bit of a secret to share with Hermione that he is into BDSM. But he's not quite the kind of dom you've like maybe seen in other scenarios. He definitely still is very much Neville. But he is war-hardened and, you know, very, I mean, he's hot. There's no other way to say it. He's really hot. And I love these two so, so much. And I love when they start exploring this journey together and Hermione doesn't think that it will be something she's into, but she is. She very much is. And I love watching them explore it. So Neville is one of my tender-hearted heroes for sure. And I will put a link to this fanfic down below so you can snag it. And as always, thank you to Mel for making me these absolutely beautiful bound fics again and again. It's absolutely perfect. I love it so much. All right, then we have Theo Silva from Reckless by Elsie Silver. This is a book that I absolutely adored this year. I really, really did. It touched me in some new ways. I loved Winter and how fierce she was and what a good mother she is and how much she has been through is just very harrowing in some aspects. And then we have Theo, who is just, he's a swoony boy. Okay, he's a swoony boy. There's nothing else to say for it. These two have a one-night stand. And though it is a bit too perfect how this becomes a secret baby, I think we can agree that Winter doesn't necessarily try too hard to get in contact with him. But once we get past that, which does go by pretty quickly in the beginning of this book, we get introduced to Theo again as someone who is absolutely devastated that he didn't know about the birth of his child. And we watch him jump in both feet, full chest, to be the dad that he wants to be, and to be there for Winter, and to be there for his child. And it's so beautiful. And like, I have come to agree with some of my friends who said that some of the sex scenes in this don't really match the characters that she's written. I do think that there's a tendency that authors, no matter the hero they write, he has to be this dominating Casanova in the bedroom and has to be like, slap me around and call me names, but yet be this tender-hearted hero. Like, I think he still stands as a very tender-hearted and sweet man, but there is something about the sex scenes in this book that don't fit the rest of it the way that other couples in the series do. Like, I don't quite know if that's a hit anymore, the more that I evaluate it. And we'll see when I reread this book for my end of the year stuff if that stands true. But I do still stand by that Theo is a very tender-hearted and sweet hero, and I love how he loves these two. I love it. So he still makes it onto this list for sure. All right, then we have Ryan Shea from The Right Move. Definitely the grumpiest of the ones I've shown so far, but no less tender-hearted and cinnamon rolly on the inside. This ends up being a roommate, forced proximity, sister's best friend, or best friend's brother scenario that is just beautiful to see. And we see how Ryan falls for Indy and how he goes about trying to make her life better and easier and to help in any way that he can. And it's beautiful to see. It really is beautiful to see. And it makes him so swoony and perfect and just absolutely a dreamboat. Like, I love him so dearly, so much. And there's a reason why he's on so many people's favorites lists for this year, just so much. And yeah, I just love all the small gestures that he does for her, the way that he, even when he's still being very grumpy about her, how protective he is and how much he just wants to help her out. He is such a good man underneath it all, and I love that about him. And then the last one I want to mention definitely has the golden retriever energy that we all deserve. This is a reformed playboy who is, he's a naughty one. He's a naughty one. We won't pretend otherwise, but I enjoy him quite a bit. So we have Carter Beckett from Consider Me, and he's a playboy who, once he gets an eyeful of our heroine, who I forgot her name, Olivia, he just is a dog with a bone who won't let go, and he goes about wowing her pants off and making all of these gestures. Now, he is completely over the top. Like, I won't lie, this book is too long, and most of it is filled with Carter being over the top, ridiculous, completely in love with Olivia. But I find it so endearing at the same time that it's why I couldn't completely, like, throw the book out and be annoyed with it, because he's just so sweet. He's so sweet. There's no other way to say it. He, you know, just wants to take care of not only Olivia, but everyone in his life, his mother and sister. He lost his father when he was a younger man, and it's been very, very difficult. But he's stepped up to be the man he needs to be. He does have a playboy persona, and that does get him into trouble at times, but he is a beautiful man. He's a beautiful man, and he definitely fits into the tender-hearted hero category. So there you go. Those are some cinnamon roll tender-hearted heroes just for you. Tell me some of your favorites, and make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel for more recommendations coming your way every week. Thanks so much for watching, friends. Bye.